inventory is not under control, your business is not ready to sell. Today's guest help business owners turn inventory from a hidden risk to a real value. Welcome to Business Beyond You, the one-stop hub for insights, conversations, and perspectives business owners need to build businesses that last beyond them. Hi, I'm Sara Vaziri, M&A advisor in the state of California, and today I have with me Mark Hamilton from Hamilton Management Consulting, who helps business owners improve inventory systems, cash flow, and operational efficiency. Mark, welcome to Business Beyond You.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay, so Mark, when we sell businesses, especially manufacturing businesses or distribution, those kind of businesses, a lot of times we have a subject called inventory that will make all of us a lot of problems, the buyer, seller, and us as brokers. So because this is your expertise to help business owners solve their problems with inventory, I invited you to this episode of Business Beyond You. And to start, I want to ask you, when you go and work with a business owner, what are the basics that you want them to think about when they are dealing with their inventory system? What are those base items that you help them understand in your work?
Okay. Well, the first thing is from a visibility standpoint is do they believe what the inventory is in their systems is telling them? Is it accurate? Can they make decisions off it? Do they treat all inventory the same? And so whether or not it's a high selling item or a low selling item, I'm getting the same amount of inventory in to support each one of them. And then finally, one of the things that I find in most businesses is about 20% of the inventory they have that is what I would call excess and obsolete. It's too much or it's never going to sell. So the problem for that from a sales standpoint is I've got to be able to demonstrate that the collateral that I have for my inventory evaluation is real and that I have some control over my business because I know how much my inventory is and I can fulfill my orders without any problem.
Mhm. So these are the items that you first start having them think about it. So to help our audience understand exactly how you help business owners, let's go over some real life examples of what you have done. We discussed together this clothing manufacturer. You were telling me that they have 6 full-time employees just working on receiving the inventory from overseas sewing centers, and each box had to be opened and individual pieces had to be counted. Tell us more. What was the problem? How you approached it? How you solved that problem?
Okay. Yeah, so this was a company that designed clothing and they manufactured a lot, but they also imported a lot. And so what would happen is a pallet of clothing would show up, and in apparel, you've got color, size, and style. So you have a bunch of different SKUs in each particular box. Well, what those people had to do was open every box that they had to count the small, medium, and larges and the red, blues, and greens in each pack manually. And so it was a lot of handling of every product that they had, which for a relatively low margin business wasn't very effective.
Mhm.
So this was an interesting use of technology. There's a technology that's gaining a lot of traction right now called RFID tagging. What that basically is a tag that you put on your product that has a small microchip in it that allows you to program that chip with, hey, here I'm a small red shirt that's the SKU number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so what I can do with that is I don't have to have direct line of sight to read it like I do with a barcode. We all are very experienced with barcodes in stores where we can see the barcode and scan it. The RFID sets out a signal so that I can point the gun at a pallet with 1,000 items on it and it will count them all immediately.
Wow.
So this eliminated their need to have to open every box and count every box and reduce the human part of the whole counting process as well. So
Okay.
what this enabled them to do was to get their stuff from the dock into stock much faster and take their labor down by about 2/3.
Two-thirds. So
Mhm.
instead of 6 full-time employees, now the 2 full-time employees could do the whole job. So I,
Right.
I bet that was a great investment and increase their efficiency so much.
And from a technology standpoint, pretty easy to get into. You're talking about three or four $3,000 guns and a couple $1,000s of software. It's very different than trying to figure out how do I make ChatGPT do a better counting of my inventory.
Yes. Okay, and that's great. So let's go over example number two. You said about this tile importer. Tell us about that company. What was the problem there and how you approached and solved it?
Okay. So most importers and distributors, part of their value proposition is I'm investing in the inventory so that you as a customer have high access to inventory. And when you walk in and you see something you want, I have it and you can walk out with it. What the problem with this particular operation was is the product was difficult to pack. It's very heavy. So buying racking was very expensive. So they had a lot of stuff out in the yard, but it's all dense pack and buried into each other. So it made it very, very difficult to count. Um, from an inventory standpoint, their turns were relatively low. They were probably at 4 turns. So what we did instead is we looked at the overall value of the inventory in terms of its contribution to the profit margin. So I looked at this pot and said, how much margin am I getting from that? I looked at this tile and said, how much am I getting from that? And we said, okay, so I've got the A items, which are probably 80% of their SKUs that made up, I'm sorry, 20% of those SKUs that made up 80% of their overall gross margin. That's the stuff I want to have at 95%. When
Hmm.
we looked at the other ones, we said, okay, if it's a B item, maybe it's the next 15%. I want to have it maybe at an 80% service level. And what the manager actually did is he took this idea and ran with it. And for the C items, which were only contributing 5% of revenue, he says, my inventory service safety stock is going to be set so that I'm only at a 50% service level. And the
Hmm.
reason he said that was because, hey, if I'm a specialty tile guy and you're one come in and you want that tile, you may be willing to wait 6 weeks for it to come.
Hmm.
And what that allowed them to do was reduce their inventory by $2 million and eliminate the need to create another storage yard to put their tiles into. So
Hmm.
not all inventory is the same. It's not its value to your company is not all the same.
So if I understand correctly, they were trying to have all of the inventory in hand. So when a customer comes in, 90% of the time they have everything that customer needs. But when
Hmm.
you came in, you said that no, this part of your inventory doesn't even have that much margin. So you don't lose that much if like 50% of the time you don't have it available. So you
Right.
just increase the inventory for the high margin parts and decrease it for the one that's very low margin.
Correct.
Okay. I bet that was a great help. So tell us about this third example that what was the oven manufacturer's problem and how did you solve that problem?
Okay. So in my business, one of the hardest things to do is kill a part and throw away a part. Right? So it's very difficult to do, and there's several reasons for that. Is that people like to have the inventory on their balance sheet because they may be using it as collateral for a short-term loan. Um, they may be they also me throwing inventory away is unfortunately an admission that we made a mistake. And also the people who are making those decisions typically are up in the C-suite, and so they're not the ones having to deal with inventory with cobwebs in it. They're having to walk around on the floor. So and the CFO doesn't want to have to explain to the board why did I write off $500,000 worth of inventory. It's better
Mhm.
just to leave it out in the warehouse and let it age, and it can be somebody else's problem. So one of the things that we do first on this is we always look at inventory for what I call a weeks on hand measure, which is how many weeks of inventory at the current level of demand do I have before I run out.
Mhm.
What finance people like to look at is what they call inventory turns. That's a very similar number, but it's more complicated to get to. I like to look at weeks on hand. This is okay. If I have 20 weeks on hand for a product that I have 2 weeks lead time for, what am I doing with all this inventory?
Mhm.
Right, so we look at the weeks on hand as um, the big hitter, and what we found in this case is that of half their 5,000 parts had no demand.
Wow.
So we basically decided to deactivate those so that I can't buy them again, making sure I don't make a mistake, and then we'll figure out how to dispose of them. Then we looked at the service levels. We looked at how we were setting the reorder points on the other items so that we weren't buying too much.
Hmm.
One of the things that you see a lot in businesses is buyers like to buy the minimum order quantity because they get that price break discount. And so what you have is you have a whole bunch of stock coming in and they're like, hey, but look at the deal that I got on that product. Well, the problem is that product may never sell and it gets thrown away or it gets damaged or obsolete in the inventory. And so the savings isn't really the savings. So one of the things, if you want to think about getting demo queue, is you can do what I would call an open PO, which is I'm going to buy enough quantity to get the volume break discount, but I'm going to split up the delivery so that I only take it pieces at a time. So I get the benefit of the buy, but I don't have to take it all in one big lump and have to eat it.
Hmm. Hmm. No, that's great. Like I would say maybe 90% of the times when we are dealing with manufacturing businesses, we deal with this inventory problem that there are so much inventory more than that business really consumes in a year. And now we are in this between because the buyer doesn't want them, seller thinks that they have value. So I wish that, everybody before we want to go for selling a business, they hire somebody like you to come in and clean that inventory for them.
Right.
That's
Exactly. I come in
really
and
helpful.
identify what isn't going to sell, what we need to get away from, and what is the true valuation of the inventory itself.
So what happened with that oven manufacturer? What was the final level? Did they agree to get rid of some of that inventory at the end, or what happened at the end?
Well, actually, it's an active project, so we are meeting with the
Oh, you're
CFO to define the write-off, and he's got to present it to his board. So that's what we're doing next week.
okay, got it. So tell us this about this garden novelty importer. What was the problem there?
The problem with the novelty importer was that they had a big warehouse. These guys made what we call garden gnomes. So like the little statues that are in your flower beds and other products like that. They had a lot of products. They had a pretty expansive warehouse. Their overall approach to receiving inventory was they cut it in the back door, they received it, and they found the first hole they could find to stick it in.
Hmm.
And so what that meant was it was completely random if I'm the guy who's got to pick the order as to how I would go find the product and how far I would have to go to find the product. So one of the concepts that I apply in a lot of it warehouses I work in is what I call a store within the warehouse. So I create a small area that's adjacent to the shipping area, and I get maybe 3 or 4 weeks of demand for all the SKUs that they're selling into a very small area. So I don't have full pallets of product. I have smaller amounts of product. And so then when I'm the guy who's picking the order, all I have to do is walk into the store and walk out with the product, and when the product runs out, I go to the rest of the warehouse and I bring it in by the pallet into the store. So it dramatically reduces the travel distance that you have. It makes it a lot easier for your warehouse manager to see where the people are, and it makes everybody more productive.
Hmm.
That's good from a sales standpoint because it shows a level of control of your business that they're buying. That's part of what they're buying. They're buying the concept of a store that's just something that you're successfully delivering on that controls your inventory. I look at that as a selling point.
Yes, of course. If I'm a buyer going to a warehouse like that and see I can't find any item, it takes me forever to find any item. Of course, it's different than I have a area that I know I go there, it's small and I can find everything so quickly.
Correct.
No, that's great. So based on the examples you gave me, you go in, you see the exact situation with the inventory, you help them to correct their buying, their arrangement, how they follow all of those inventory. You help them to find solutions for every detailed problem they have with their inventory. Great.
Correct. No, I want the owner to be able to say, look, I'm in control of my business. The inventory is organized such it minimizes travel and I'm better at control. I'm setting my inventory targets so I'm hitting the service levels without over investing in inventory.
Mhm. That's very important because the inventory that is not being used is like a cash that's sitting in your warehouse and it's not moving. It's not
Correct.
making money. Okay. No, that was great information. So if we want to put everything together, tell me exactly what is the role of inventory management in helping a buyer understand that the business is not dependent on the seller because that's the basis of selling a business. How
Right.
having a good inventory management system can help us achieve that goal.
Yeah, because a good inventory management system is going to have decision making and execution down to the lowest levels. If I can demonstrate to a potential buyer that the person who knows where to pick and how to pick is the guy on the forklift and the organization of work is in the warehouse manager, and that picking the right level of inventory isn't the intuition of the owner, it's based on demand planning from the buyer. These are all things that separate out the decision making on inventory and picking orders from the owner.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. Tell us to our audience exactly what your company does, what help you can provide to business owners, and if somebody wants to use your help, how they can reach out to you.
Okay, sure. A lot of what I do is basically what I've been talking about. So my focus is on operations improvement and management decision making about how to manage inventory and how to figure out how much inventory to buy. And so you can see more case studies about what I do at my website, hamiltonmc.net, www.hamiltonmc.net. If you want to contact me directly, I'm Mark at hamiltonmc.net. That's MARC at HAMILTONMC.net. Or you can call me at 714-206-8502.
Okay, awesome. And we will add all of this information under this video. Thanks again for your time and sharing your knowledge with us.
Cool, appreciate it. Thank you.